Every day we face hurdles in our life and problems that require new approaches or breakthrough innovations. In this podcast series, we're going to meet people that take audacious swings for the fence because they believe that changing the game is their personal responsibility. They believe it is up to them to be the solution. Hi, I'm Mark Forche. I'm the President and CEO of Delphinus, and welcome to this episode of the Be the Solution podcast. We're on the floor of the 108th RSNA in Chicago at McCormick Place. Every Thanksgiving weekend, radiologists from all over the world load up and come to Chicago for the biggest meeting of the year in radiology. It's about 34,000 people here this year. And this is the Delphinus exhibit. We're really pleased to be here this year. And I'm especially pleased to be here this year with our guest, Joe Cappello. Joe is the executive director of Are You Dense? And Joe's story and his involvement in radiology is incredible. When I think about the Be the Solution podcast, the objective of this is to talk with people that are innovators, that take audacious swings for the fence to accomplish great things facing great challenges. And I think this organization that Joe leads and has led along with his wife Nancy for many years, now leads by himself, embodies exactly what this podcast is to focus on, and that's innovation and audacious swings against challenges. So Joe, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate your invitation to come, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you and your team. And it's been quite a number of years that my wife Nancy and I, since 2004 actually, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, we became people who were advocates and never wanted to be an advocate for anything. However, we're thrown into this, and we're making a difference in the world, actually.
Yeah. So every year that I came to RSNA starting in 2014, while Nancy was with us, I always made time to have dinner with her because I just thought she was an incredible leader and someone accomplishing tremendous things. Maybe because it's possible not everyone knows her story. Could you maybe tell the story of what drove Nancy to create Are You Dense?
Yes. Well, Nancy was a smart person. She was beautiful, and I always say she was expensive. She was a character, and brilliant. I want to say that. And she was a person that if you gave her a task, she'd go above and beyond. As you know, Mark, You've met her.
Yeah.
So, what we did when we found out that she had breast cancer, we couldn't believe it, actually, because she had her screenings done and, your typical mammogram. And, of course, the word dense breast tissue had never come up because no one even talked about it. And so we asked the physician, why could this happen? Not that she got breast cancer, but how come a late stage breast cancer? And that was really the key. People get cancer and people get breast cancer. But if you're going to get it, you want to catch it at its earliest point. So there's treatment for that. And so anyway, we decided to make a change. We asked the physicians, she had about 5 of them now. We asked the physicians, what could we do about this? And they said, well, there's really nothing you can do. This is the standard protocol. And I said, you know something? You're not telling us about dense breast tissue. You're not telling us that 40% of the women have dense breast tissue in this country. And we want to make a difference and take this fact and go national. Basically, we wanted to start at home, telling our families, telling our friends. And what happened was this became it just grew and developed. Are You Dense is a name for what we did, but my wife really worked hard, and she worked diligently to make a change. So what we did was we took a concept of what we would like to see, and we said that, since this is the standard protocol, we're going to change the standard protocol so that the standard protocol includes information for women with dense breasts, which it didn't at the time. And this is 18 years ago. It's a long time. So we started out in the state of Connecticut. We went to the legislature. There was just my wife and I. And we knocked on their door, and we had a public hearing, and we explained to all of our friends at the legislative hearing what the deal was and why we need change, why we need information given to patients. And the interesting part was, Mark, that a number of the legislators said, could this be something my wife would be subject to? And when it gets personal, it gets real. And I said, absolutely, your wife could have dense tissue, but you need to find out, and you'll find out from your mammogram. And anyway, we passed a law, first in the nation. I'll skip ahead a little bit. First law in the nation. And this law said that, if a woman has dense tissue, she's got to be told that she's got dense tissue. And what that means, there's also new products coming out on the market, and these products are able to discern between a tumor and not a tumor, and also it'll show what density looks like. Density is actually a very common thing, but mammograms are not that accurate with dense tissue. So an ultrasound machine was developed. There's a number of companies, but we found that Delphinus has a machine like no other. And I was just looking at the machine in back of us here, and there's nothing like it. It's so accurate. It surrounds the breast. The screening surrounds the breast, goes right up to the chest wall. There's no pain. There's no typical discomfort like in a mammogram. And this is a huge project. Yeah. Huge.
So I think what's to me is really incredible is the story that you cite 18 years. I think now your efforts to create laws. I think we've got 38 state laws.
38, right.
38 state laws, federal law.
And we didn't do it alone.
Oh, I know that you guys have been like personal tornadoes
Good way to say it.
on the legislation side and what you've accomplished. I think though this year there's a lot of people probably watching this that are much more aware of dense breast issues than they were even last year. Yes. Katie Couric's situation, although extremely empathetic towards her for her breast cancer,
right.
She also has driven a conversation and awareness that might seem like overnight success in awareness, but it's not. There's 18 years and 38 states of things that have been accomplished to do this. The kind of work that you and Nancy have done allowed companies like us to focus on creating new technologies specifically for this. And I think that has made a huge difference. So I think we're in a fortunately growing landscape of things that lets us talk more about breast density, about the need for new technologies. And so I'm curious for you, what's your main objective right now? What do you most want to accomplish right now with your organization, your team, the people that you work with?
Well, it's a real good question, Mark. Our main objective now is to make sure that the legislation that we passed previously 4 years ago gets implemented. And it's a huge thing because we've done, and many people have done a lot of work to bring us to this point. But the FDA has held up some things. And the new rule we're waiting on to change the MQSA, which is the Mammography Quality Standards Act, that is the crux of the matter. We need to have this implemented. And once we do that, we feel as though we really, really have done a lot of work. Us and other advocates also.
Yeah. I know one of the things that I think about a lot, and of course, I'm on the industry side, I'm on the corporate side, but one of the things I think about a lot is with notification laws, with awareness of breast density, with the current performance of technology, it really requires a synergistic effort that industry has to be in as well.
Sure.
So I think one of the things that is really, I have a lot of empathy for radiologists because when it comes to serving dense breast patients, there's flaws in the existing options. And so that's what drove us with SoftView and this technology to create a technology for dense breast screening.
Yes.
Because the current gold standard mammography misses about half the cancers.
Exactly.
in women with dense breasts. 40% of women have dense breasts. So if we're going to really change that position, we feel strongly that we need to have every dense breast woman screened.
Yes.
So that
Absolutely.
we can help them understand where they are in their life as rapidly as possible. So the situation you and Nancy went through doesn't happen. But so I think there's a great collaboration opportunity here. Those things don't happen though unless there's a kind of catalyst. And so a catalyst is exactly what you and Nancy had accomplished. So what do you think are the maybe biggest challenges going forward? You have additional legislation getting that implemented. What sort of things do you see as the biggest challenges?
I would say, Mark, the biggest challenge going forward would be implementation. Not only the law that was passed, national law that was passed, but implementation, meaning the screening facilities to implement this process into their daily routine. That is difficult because that's teaching an old dog a new trick, in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's always hard to change.
Yeah.
But that's where ingenuity comes in.
Yeah.
That's where things get invented because of change.
Yeah.
Such as SoftView. And there are problems that need to be resolved, no question, but you can't stop.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that we get this law, this national breast density law implemented into our country. And, there's countries all around the world that Nancy spoke at, my wife, and Japan and Italy and France and Puerto Rico and Canada and Australia. And they are all hungry for something like Delphinus.
We hear that all the time.
It's amazing.
So
That's why I really feel strongly about teaming up with you, and because I know this is something different and it works.
Well, thank you, and that's why we did it. And I think one of my favorite sayings is a well-defined problem is nearly solved. So you certainly did society a service in defining this issue. It helps all the people that help with legislation work to solution. It helps industry work to solution. And that's what being the solution is all about, is defining things and taking big swings. Maybe just one last question. A lot of people watching this podcast. What can people that are watching this podcast do to help? What's the number one thing when they flip this off on their computer? What do they, or their TV or whatever they're watching, their handheld device? What can they do today to help be the solution to this?
I would say that what the general public could do, the women of this nation, they need to recognize the issue. And unless they're told, they don't know. And this is a ground swell. It's a ground roots development of information. And this has to be told. It's got to be an education process, which is difficult because it's change. But I think it'll work. It'll happen because there's a need for it. And you don't want to supply something when there's no need for it. You're going to end up with a garage full of equipment.
Right. Right.
So, really, to change the MQSA and educate women, it's really our goal as our udents.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that we could make a change in this world.
Well, thank you
One
for the
at a
work.
time.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you,
you
Mark.
for your passion. We'll help every way we can. I'm sure people that are watching this will help every way they can as well. I'd like to just wrap up by saying what I said at the very beginning. I can't think of any societal effort that more embodies what we are doing this podcast for than this. This is about saving lives, about identifying issues and providing new solutions. I really appreciate you watching this. Joe, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mark.
Hope you have a great rest of your week, and thanks for being here with us at the RSNA.
Thank you.